Teachers of Reddit. What's the weirdest thing a student answered to "Tell me a fun fact about yourself"? My dad clogged the toilet this morning and that's why I'm feeling frustrated, -5-year-old child. I will say the question was, "How are you doing this morning?" But I could barely keep from laughing out loud. I have IBS. My toddler once told visiting friends that, "Daddy takes long poops." I mean, I was having a flare-up and had some extended bathroom sessions. But, dang little dude, not cool. I'm terrified, amused about what he might share at school in the near future. Had students aged 11 sharing strategies for dealing with difficult emotions. One at a time in a big circle. One girl talked about digging her nails into her face whenever she was feeling stressed or anxious. And I had to explain to the class why self-harm was not a good coping strategy. We did one of those 2 truths 1 lie bits. Girl stands up and says, "I've never been out of the country. I'm a twin. I love playing sports." I knew this girl beforehand and knew she didn't have a twin. So picked that one. Nope. She had a conjoined twin that died in utero and had to be surgically removed and she's now missing the last vertebrae on her spine. Showed us the scar and everything. Apparently the lie was the first one as she'd been to Mexico. A guy in my class introduced himself by telling us how he decided he wanted to study philosophy because one day he was really high peeing in the street and he saw a couple of people working and he wondered what they were doing. So he realized his passion was wondering. He dropped out like 2 months later. Not a teacher. But in 3rd grade, we would do this weekly "How was your weekend" sort of thing where we'd sit in a circle and share. This one girl casually goes, "I found out that my biological father didn't want me," in a super nonchalant tone and everything. I still remember the awkward tension. Okay, so I had psychology back in the spring semester before COVID hit and I sat next to a girl who I was good friends with from high school. Professor asks her for a fun fact and she said, "I like to watch people get cut open." She obviously said it for effect. But she cleared it up by saying she liked watching videos of people getting plastic surgery because it's satisfying to watch. I know a lot about medieval torture equipment. Quote, "I've researched some hella painful ways to die. I'm using that whenever someone asks me that question." That he has been to juvie multiple times and is currently on probation. Then he pulled up his pants enough that everyone could see his ankle monitor. That was something. In my psychology class, we were talking about the early signs of serial killers and the quietest girl who never spoke told the story of when she lived in Chicago. She had a friend around 5th grade who would always stomp on baby birds and once put his hamster in the microwave. Well, his parents were having difficulty keeping up with his antics, so they sent him to his grandmother's, who he promptly stabbed to death when she woke him up for school. So that was interesting. During French class, a guy in my class said that he liked stabbing children. He meant that he fences but didn't know the exact translation for that. I am not a teacher, but this guy in my class named Shane has this medical condition that causes him to grow tons of hair at an early age. Full beard in middle school. He would say, "I'm Shane and I'm very hairy." Quote. In the context of having students introduce themselves one by one to a new boy in a small high school class. A girl said her parents got her a nose job and a boob job. "I've had my hand up a sheep's bum," shocked me slightly. Child of a farming family. Helping with lambing season. Not a teacher, but I was a helper in a middle school classroom. A young girl, who seemed uninterested, said, with no hesitation, that she can chug an entire bottle of beer. She got expelled later that year for keeping drugs in her locker. I'm a teacher from the UK. Form tutor to a Year 7 class, 11-year-olds, to get to know each other on the first day I had them take it in turns to say their name. Which primary school they've come from and an interesting fact. Like favorite food or color. We get to the last kid in the class. His fact is that he has 6 fingers on one hand. Coolest kid ever. Lol, that's like my brother. He was born with 6 fingers on each hand. But he had them removed as a baby. When he found out around age 10. He got so mad because he said he could have been really cool and really fast at typing. Quote. My friend is really quiet. He doesn't really talk unless talked to. He's really cool though and has some things he enjoys doing. Literally second year I knew him, the teacher asked this and he said he's a professional bowler with a 300 best. And I was like, why haven't you told me this? That's amazing? I guess it just never came up. Haha, knew him for a whole year and never knew that. I don't ask for a fun fact. But on the first day I always ask. What's your most recent obsession? Low stakes. Building affinity networks. Etc. etc. In my first semester, a student said air. As in oxygen. My husband is an aerospace engineer who used to work specifically on air systems for private jets, and legitimately. He was obsessed with air, oxygen, for an extended period of time. He would come home and just be so passionate about the specifics of the air, oxygen pressure system design he was leading. I knew what I was getting into marrying an engineer, but hoo boy. I did not see an oxygen obsession coming. I teach ESL and every lesson we start the class by sharing something good that happened to us over the last week or so. Needless to say, kids share the most random things ever. I have many weird stories because of that. We enforce a rule that they need to share good things so they don't start one-upping each other over whose grandma had the worst death. Lol. One day, a student said, I was riding my bike over the weekend when I fell. Single quote comma, I could see where it was going but didn't have enough time to enforce the rule when he just spat out, I fell over a wired fence and cut my neck. It just kept gushing blood. A lot of blood. Single quote dot. I reminded him that we were only sharing good news when he said, it's good because I'm still alive. Single quote dot. I had a good laugh and agreed, but the damage was done. Every kid after him wanted to share about the most horrific injury they had or witnessed. Not me but my brother. He told the teacher, last night my family ate beaver for dinner. I was much older and had left home by then. The class laughed. The teacher accused him of lying. The principal was brought into this and my mother had to go in for a meeting. She chewed them up one side and down the other because we had a cousin who was a trapper and he had sent a batch of beaver thighs for the family to enjoy. Although, my brother was telling the truth. He told me later that he did say that for the effect disrupting the class. It wasn't weird, but actually cute and funny. I was teaching 5th grade and this kid, white as paper, goes my name as blank. But you can call me LeBron. He had an obsession with LeBron James and first did in fact call him LeBron whenever I wanted to get his attention. Great kid. When I was in my first year at university, my law and society professor made each student get up, say her name and tell why they picked law school. Well, a guy got up, said his name and the professor interrupted him by asking, Anon, are you related to X? The guy, yes professor. He is my grandfather. Then the professor got excited and started talking about what great of a guy the 10th is and that he haven't heard of him in years. Then the professor asked how he was. Anon replied, he is dead. Whole class was trying to hold the laughter. It pretty much broke the class that first day. Even though I'm a professor, nothing that's ever been revealed by this question has ever been as awkward or uncomfortable as an occasion that happened when I was still a student. This was when I was in my MFA program for creative writing. If you've never been in an arts program before, it probably won't surprise you to learn that they can attract some weird personalities. It was the first day of a fiction workshop and the professor decided that he wanted us to all share something interesting about ourselves, and for some reason one girl, Ashley, decided that this would be a good opportunity for her to tell us about her long history of drug abuse and the equally long period of mental psychosis she went through as a result of it. She didn't do this as a quick answer either, but as a long drawn-out list of every single drug she had ever experimented with, followed by a catalog of every single delusion she suffered as a result. The only one I can remember now is that at one point she became convinced she was a millionaire and her family was hiding her money from her. All of this was delivered in a monotone monologue with her eyes glazed over that lasted at least 5 minutes. Which was met at the end with a long, awkward silence before the professor said, "Well, that was definitely something interesting," and moved on to the next person. A student once told my wife that her daddy had a special device that he had to blow into to start his truck. One guy, I love rape. Sometimes I rape. Sometimes me and my friends like to get together and listen to rape. Some of my favorite rapers include Tupac, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Biggie. My favorite rape song is English was not his first language. He had us in the first half. Not gonna lie, edited to add the continuation and make it clear everyone figured out what he meant once he started listed the famous rapers. I was an ESL teacher in Indonesia and a student once told me every morning she cleaned the shit on her bed. I asked her to clarify. Worried she had a serious digestive issue. She answered, I brush my teeth, wash face and clean bed shit. Bed sheet. Someone in a class once told everyone about his grandparents were arrested for keep a bunch of adopted children in cages. He said that he used to play with the kids when he was young. But he was too young to understand that the conditions they were in weren't normal. They kept kids in cages and locked in rooms for years before they were discovered and arrested. Yup. Fun fact. Not a teacher, but on the first day of school in 8th grade this kid in one of my classes casually answered, I have a restraining order on my dad. I was in one of the first small required classes for my teaching degree and everyone in the class was studying to teach. It was day 2 or 3 and we were doing a get-to-know-you activity where we share something about ourselves. I don't remember the exact question but it had something to do with what you regret, take back. A guy came in late when almost everyone has answers the question and the professor asked him the questions and he thought for a moment and said, I regret letting my friend talking me into dropping acid. The class was silent for a good 20 seconds until the professor said maybe next time we only share things that are legal. I hadn't seen him in any other teacher classes since. Still laugh about it to this day. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. See you next time.